year.
But unusual set of circumstances, perhaps unique. You've taken over a team that's won a premiership and played in the grand final in the previous 2 years. That doesn't happen too often, does it?
No, and if you look back over time, very rarely, maybe once at Hawthorn. The club has had recent success, and the succession plan has been in place for a period of time. But our football program is very solid. We've got talent within the list, and yeah, perhaps so there should be. There are expectations on our performance, but looking forward to those challenges. 26
months between the public declaration of the succession plan in 2009 to when you took over. Was the apprenticeship difficult?
Well, no, I don't believe so. I mean, I enjoyed every moment of it. I saw every day as an opportunity to learn and to prepare, I suppose, and to contribute my very best to chances of success for the club in the short term as well. Mick was fantastic throughout that period, and he's one of the best coaches of the modern era, and to have the opportunity to work under him as a coach after experiencing his coaching as a player was something that rounded off my knowledge of the way he went about it. Add Lee Matthews and Robert Walls to that, and Jack Cale over in South Australia, and you've sort of got a fairly good understanding of what you're looking at.
What changes in the Collingwood style of play can we expect to see in the Buckley regime?
How many coaches do you ask that question of between 1 year and the next?
Well, if I was sitting in front of them, I'd ask all 18 of them.
And what would they?
If there were changes,
would they be telling you exactly what that is?
No, but I mean, most of your opposite numbers, wouldn't they know? Haven't they seen enough of Collingwood under you to know that there are subtle differences to the way that they?
So you tell me, what are you saying?
Well, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of you because I haven't seen a lot of the NAB Cup competition, but the clubs that you're going to be playing, they will have done their homework on you, won't they?
Yeah, and they'll see an adjustment and a tinkering to the game plan of what has been in place the last couple of years. And I dare say if Mick was coach, you might have seen something different again. We still believe we're a great contested ball side, and that is the foundation of the way the game is played, and it's the foundation of how this club has performed. One of the top couple of contested ball sides over the last couple of years. We've got a very strong midfield, so we want to maximise that. We've got some weapons in our forward line that we want to maximise, and we've got a very strong defence. In the end, it's the slow sort of development and evolution of our players that is going to be the change to cope with the way the game has to be played in 2012.
But you were a very offensive player yourself. Can we expect to see Collingwood take a more direct path to goal, or are you still committed to that, playing along the boundary and not taking risks when you come back in?
I think the last couple of years defence is king. When you get to September football, if you can't win contested footy and defend very well, well then you're going to struggle to win games in September. So that remains. That's a given. But I think we're going into an evolution where the offence that sides use to get through that defence is going to be the next progression of the game. So we've already seen some teams want to chip through it and control the ball and kick mark and control the tempo. Others are happy to try and handball through it still, but refine their patterns, their running patterns, to be able to get through the press and the pressure. And others want to kick long over the top. If we were to isolate what Collingwood has been in the past, it really has been kick long over the top and go wide. And I think predominantly that's the way we're going to go about it. But there's no doubt that you need to be a little bit more adventurous and aggressive at times to take the upper hand rather than allowing the defence to dominate.
Which underlines the importance of Travis Cloke, for argument's sake. I mean, is he your most valuable player?
Yeah, look, I think he and some of our key backs, I think Ben Reid, although very young in football terms, is a very important player to us, as is Chris Tarrant. But I think, I suppose if you judge the value of a player by how much of a hole they would leave if they weren't in your side, I think Travis is probably our most important player.
You've seen him evolve. I mean, I think he won the Copeland maybe 3 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah. But he looks almost now the complete player. He's big and strong, mobile, got good endurance, and his kicking's improved. Is that just a natural evolution, or has there been a lot of work invested in Trav?
Oh, absolutely. There's been a lot of work invested, and I think at different stages of a player's career, different coaches or teammates or even family and friends give the feedback to a player that's going to take them to that next level. And they're going to be challenged and by their opposition, whether it be coaching tactics from the opposition or an individual player that really makes you aware of something that you need to change. But Clokey's a hard worker. He commits to his football absolutely. And we speak so often about big key position players and ruckmen and how long it takes them to mature. And we're still seeing an evolution and a maturity in Travis's game. And you know, I'd love to see him go to another level again. But he was fantastic. Yeah. He's been fantastic in the last couple of years, and he's a colossus for us.
The Brownlow medalist Dane Swan isn't in your leadership group in 2012. Is that the coach's call or the player's call?
It's a joint process. I mean, ultimately, I'm big on the empowerment of the playing group. And whilst that hasn't been something, I suppose, that the playing group, the leadership group have had in the past, they need to earn that respect and the trust to be able to drive the group and drive the expectations within it. I think fundamentally that's where all clubs are driven, that's where all teams are driven, is from the generals on the field. Either facilitating the coaches' requests and demands or driving them themselves by their own expectations. But Swanee has been an elite performer. He's got a great pride in the way he goes about his football. He's a gamer. He just wants to get in the middle of the MCG, 85,000 people, and prove to them that he can still play the way he always has.
But it is unusual, though, for a bloke to win a Brownlow medal and then be left out of the leadership group, whosever choice it was.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of Brownlow medalists that haven't been in leadership groups. So I mean, that's not a prerequisite, and it's not something that needs to be. The dots don't join up there. Swanee's. We expect Swanee to prepare as well as he has ever, and to improve on his performance as much as you can when you've been 3 times Copeland Trophy winner and then a Brownlow in 4 years. No one's been more consistent than he has over the last 4 seasons.
Have you had any concerns about his behaviour over the summer?
No. He's actually, his attitude to preparation and training has been excellent, and on exposed training form, he's actually been in good nick. I think he does spend time through the NAB Cup games. Perhaps not as invested as he does in home and away games or finals.
And one of the first things you said, and unequivocal, was that Nick Maxwell would be the captain of the Collingwood football team in 2012.
Yeah.
It's duly taken place. What is it about Maxwell that makes the new coach say there's only one viable choice as captain of this footy team?
Well, there's more than one viable choice, but
in terms of that, Maxwell's still available.
Yeah, well, he's the best leader at the football club.
Why?
He leads by example. He plays the game the way Collingwood loves to see the game played. He's fearless. He wins contested ball. He supports his teammates to the hilt on and off the field. And he's not the most skillful bloke going around. As I've said many times, he hasn't. If you stack them up in natural talent, then Maxie's not there. But I think there's quite a few great leaders that are either in the competition now or have been in the past, that the natural talent is not the thing that drives them. The natural talent is not the thing that makes them who they are. Maxie has willed himself to be the player that he is, and he's a fantastic leader and example to others because of that. And that's take away the football side of it, his relationships amongst the playing group and his ability to have the collective focused on an end week to week and throughout a season is brilliant, and that's why he's clearly our captain.
So, Bucks, when you arrived at Collingwood in 1994, you were driven, headstrong, some would say self-absorbed. You were christened in some quarters as Fig Jam at that time. Did that appellation hurt you or not?
Yeah, like I didn't like it at the time. But if I look back now, I can understand where that perception came from. And I suppose when you go through a full career, you certainly hope that you're going to adapt and evolve and develop and improve and mature. And that perspective is important to have when young players come into an organisation. Even now, as a head coach, I'm looking at our young rookies and draftees that have come in, and I know that what they are now, they're very far from a finished product, and you need to surround them with the right role models and the right environment for them to maximise their talent and their opportunity at the footy club and be the best people they can be. So I think that football provided that for me. The Collingwood Football Club and Brisbane and Port Adelaide provided that for me. And I suppose my wish and drive as a coach is to be able to provide that for others.
You said that you weren't a good listener as a young bloke.
What'd you say?
Now you're doing humour, eh? This is the light and shade in Nathan Buckley. Right. When did it change? Was there a pivotal moment or not? Or was it just a maturation process?
But see, there was a catalyst, and there's a moment that I'll share with you. But in the end, it's an evolution again, because I think you have to realise that and have a look at yourself and understand that, geez, there's something that's not quite working here. Whether it's for you as an individual or whether it's for you and your impact on the football club, I think everyone has those moments. But ultimately, I, as captain of the club at the end of 2000, walked up to Heath Scotland and asked him, how can I be a better leader? And he was one of many guys that I sort of 5 or 6 guys that I respected and approached. He was a 19-year-old kid, really? But I liked the way he went about it. And he had the courage to, when I asked him, how can I improve, he said, I reckon you can, when people are talking, I reckon you can listen more. I reckon when we're talking to you, you're generally waiting for the next opportunity to say what you want to say. And it was just like a sledgehammer. It just whacked me over the head. The fact is that you do evolve and you do mature, that there were things I did as a young player that didn't take the team or the club closer to success, and definitely didn't endear me to my teammates at times. And I'd like to think that you learn from that and that you've evolved, and in the end you've got to have a good look at yourself and see the impact that you've had. And the second half of my career was basically a flip side. It was a total dedication to all the things that I hadn't cared for, and absolutely ignored all the things that I had in the first half. And
is that directly attributable to the coach, Mick Malthouse, or just those factors that are all...
I've got no doubt that Mick had a massive influence on that. And it just, there was a tipping point. There's a few changes that happened at the footy club. Players come and go, you don't have success. But then Mick definitely came in and spoke about one for all, and the fact that one for all for one, the fact that no one person is more important than another, and he's made those comments recently about Chris Judd and Carlton. And whilst they can be made from the outside, they definitely were true of the position we're in, whether it's through my making or through Collingwood's, or the fact that we weren't successful in the late 90s. I'd been put on a pedestal, and that needed to change if we were going to be successful, and I was a part of that, as was Mick, as was the rest of the playing group.
I've always been intrigued about how players react on grand final day when they're in the losing team and they win the Norm Smith medal. It doesn't happen often, but it's happened enough for us to have a view about it.
Yep.
How did you think you responded, and what's your view looking back now about winning the Norm Smith in a beaten team?
Right, I don't have to tell you how I thought. I can tell you exactly how I responded, and that was that I wasn't going to walk back with a medal on my neck back to a group of teammates that didn't have a medal around theirs, and I had no apologies for any of that. I actually had is it Norm Smith Jr.?
No, Peter Smith.
Peter Smith, yep. Would have been, yes, who wrote me a letter and said that that Dad would have understood entirely your attitude and what you did.
Let me give you two perceptions from the outside.
Yep.
That Mick occasionally took the opportunity to put you down while you were his junior, and that you consciously, deliberately and wisely bit your tongue several times. Yeah, look, I suppose this is about the time in the interview when I say there's just far too much focus on things external to footy. Everyone seems to be fascinated with my relationship with Mick and what it is or what it isn't. It's so unusual.
Well, it's not unusual. The circumstances may be unusual, but our relationship isn't unusual. We've got, basically the master and the apprentice, and there's been plenty of master and apprentice relationships over the years, and there seems to be a want to find something that doesn't exist.
So it was a healthy working relationship?
Yeah. As I said, I learned just as much as an assistant coach as I did as a player. And perhaps even more poignantly because you're focused entirely on the coach's impact on the group or the coach's impact on the environment rather than playing the game of footy. So that was fantastic for me. And as I said, Mick has been one of the strongest impacts on my footy life.
In your gut, do you feel that the Malthouse coaching career is finished, full stop? Or do you think that there's a possibility certain circumstances might entice him back?
Oh, I think Mick said himself that, you know, once a coach, always a coach. But I think, I mean, things need to fall into place for that to happen, and it's too hard to speculate on it. You know, I mean, already this year before Damien Hardwick was re-signed, people were trying to make connections with Richmond. So I feel for me, because I've been in that position for a couple of years with absolutely no bona fides, people putting my name up as a potential head coach through 08 and 09 for any position that came up available. It's the cycle that takes place, and it'll continue.
June, July, August last year, maybe even into September, were you daunted by the thought, I'm taking over a footy team here that's won a flag and is on track to win a second one? How can I improve that?
My major focus was very narrow through that period. I think if you, while others will focus on externals and on headlines and, you know, spin-offs from here and there, I think when you're in the inner sanctum of a football club, you've got your head down, your bum up, and you really are focusing on what you can control. And as an assistant coach, as a captain, as a player before that, I think one of the qualities I did have, even as a young footballer, was the ability just to look after what I could look after and influence what you can influence, because the rest of it will fall into place. In
your book, a very good book too, All I Can Be, there was a graphic example of your father's mentoring of you when you were young, and it seemed to have a profound impact on you emotionally. Is that fair? And did that sort of sway you in the style of coaching that you'll have with young people?
Everyone's a product of their environment and their upbringing. And yeah, my relationship with my father is fantastic, and it's had its moments. And I'm sure when I had the opportunity to write the book, you're able to explore the key relationships in your life, and Dad was obviously, as I said, one of those. And he's been influential in helping me as a person. He's obviously, from an early stage, was able to pull the right strings and
But you didn't think he was pulling the right strings when you were 10 or 12?
I thought he was hard on me. But no, of course I did. When I was 12 years old, I didn't enjoy that. Yeah. But I think in the end, he made the right decisions, as a coach does for his players, not based on what feels good at the time, but on what you feel that player or your son needs to hear. Because it's not about the quick fix, it's not about the feel good, it's about, you know, where that actually ultimately ends up. And you want, you know, there's an element of tough love that I experienced in my relationship with Dad, and there's an element of tough love with every coach that I've had as well. And you need to be able to deliver the honest truth at various times, and I think you need to have built strong relationships to be able to for that to have an effect.
Have you seen the need to deliver the, quote, honest truth to your boys in the pre-season this year? I mean, maybe say after the Adelaide game?
Yeah, I think more so one-on-one you end up sort of speaking with your players about where they are and where they want to be, and whether their actions of the present actually mirror up with their expectations of the future. And I think that's a constant balance and an underlying theme that takes place in any coaching responsibility. After the Adelaide game and after the Melbourne game, probably more to the point, I haven't wanted to use the excuse of our youth, but we've had a lot of our first choice players not play those games through the pre-season. We were very keen to get to expose some youth to the game and to the top level, and to be able to manage our game time going in. We were able to achieve, tick, tick, tick. We got what we wanted out of the NAB Cup. Now, a couple of wins, a couple of challenging losses, some exposure to our young players, control the game time. We go into round one apart from some injuries that and players that we'd love to have available, we go into round one pretty comfortable with what we've been able to get from the last 6 weeks.